Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Serapio. Welcome to the Bureau Chiefs podcast. This week, we will delve into a number of issues, including the latest deficit projections from the PBO, a rough week for the Public Safety Minister as well. But we begin today with the Canada-U.S. relationship and some strong words from the U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. Take a listen to his reaction when asked how well Donald Trump knows Canada.
But when he says things like, we don't have anything you want, you got new cards, that to me is uninformed because this relationship has worked really well.
That is a decision for you and your policy make. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're uninformed about the president. I just take great offense at Canadians saying our president is uninformed, our president is untrustworthy, and those types of things. And if that's the dialogue that you want, you know, it's kind of interesting.
Well, to talk about this, let's bring in the Bureau Chiefs. Robert Fife is the Bureau Chief, Ottawa Bureau Chief, rather, for the Globe and Mail. Tonda MacCharles, Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. Joël-Denis Bellavance, the Ottawa Bureau Chief for La Presse. Hello to the three of you.
Hi. Hi there.
Hi. Okay, so we're beginning with the U.S. Ambassador, who we talked a little bit about last week, expressing displeasure being in Canada at this moment in time, and now really quite upset at that question being asked of him. But, you know, I do wonder, here you have the top American diplomat with whom Canadian officials can actually speak to. And clearly he is displeased with what he's seeing right now in terms of political climate in this country. Do we need to rethink how officials, the public, approaches the issue with the United States, given what we're hearing from the U.S. Ambassador, Bob?
Well, look, he's a MAGA guy, and he is absolutely wrong about the president is usually misinformed about almost anything he talks about. And we see this daily when you watch Trump in action. He doesn't know his files. He's ignorant about a lot of these issues. And when it comes to Canada, the president is really badly misinformed, and Canadians are really upset and disturbed by not only his talking about the 51st state, but the tariffs that he's put on this country, and people have reacted to this by not going to the United States. And now he's saying, well, then if you're not going to come to the United States, we're going to take the pre-clearance away from Canadians. So he's a strange guy. You know, he himself, I think, is ill-informed about Canada, and then he does the Trump stuff, which is to threaten us with some kind of action.
Tonda, what do you think? Clearly, again, the U.S. ambassador is not happy at this moment in time when Trump is brought up by Canadians. We are in this midst of a trade talks with the United States. Does there need to be a change in behavior?
I mean, I think there are a few things to take away from Ambassador Hoekstra's comments. And one, to what we were saying last week, I do think that there's a message to Canadians that their response in withholding travel and consumer spending on American goods or American destinations is working. It gets under their skin. But is it having an effect on the actual trade policy? No. What is having an effect? It seems like a lot of it is guided by emotion. I mean, right now, Canada, the level, at least the nominal level of tariffs against Canada is right up there with Iraq. You know, we haven't yet reached a deal like the EU or Korea or Japan or any of the other major trading partners have reached. Even Mexico has a better deal than we have right now, a better status in terms of the tariffs. So I think to that, I suppose, point, his gut reaction, his emotional reaction, says something to us about the American officials and their gut reaction to Canada's tactics. Here's where it gets interesting, though. Ambassador Hoekstra, it's not clear to me, he's not leading the trade talks for the U.S. for Trump, unlike Kirsten Hillman, his counterpart in the U.S. for Canada. She is leading our trade talks. And so far, I think that it seems that, you know, at least they're still talking at the top levels with the Trump government. And so that's where I think I'd like to hear more transparency, not necessarily more transparency on how offended the ambassador feels.
Joël-Denis?
Well, you cannot get closer a person than Mr. Hoekstra, and closer to Mr. Trump. He organized Mr. Trump's campaign in Michigan, namely, and he, I think, is saying out loud what Mr. Trump is thinking. So that's clearly a message that we should take into consideration. And the other thing is that it's not normal for U.S. diplomat to say this about Canada on Canadian soil. I've never seen a U.S. diplomat act that way, nor any other diplomat trying to lecture us about how we should respond to the kind of actions that the U.S. president is taking against Canada. Of course, we're offended, and we're not going to, stay down on our knees. We're, going to stand up to defend our sovereignty, and kudos to Canada and Canadians to do that. But clearly, I think the fact that we don't go to the United States anymore in big numbers as we used to, or the fact that we're criticizing the U.S. government and not accepting his policies, does tell me that they are offended by that and that it's working. Yeah, and we are, probably winning the psychological war, if I may say, with the United States on that front.
Well, and I hear you on that, but we also know that Donald Trump is a leader who goes into negotiations more apt to give if he's feeling positive about the person with whom he's sitting at the table with. And to that, take a listen to a conversation I had earlier this week with former Canadian ambassador to the United Nations, Louise Blais.
For him, it's personal. You've got to build rapport. And from there, well, you do negotiate and try to get something out of it. That comes first with Donald Trump. And we get the sense that we're just not there yet.
Okay, not yet there. Then you listen to Hoekstra. Again, should we be reading the tea leaves a bit deeper with what Hoekstra is? I think it's one thing to say, oh, there's a bombastic American who's criticizing Canada, but do we need to read into that tea leaves? Do Canadian officials need to read into that tea leaf?
Well, we do know that, and the president himself has said that he actually gets along pretty well with Mark Carney. They seem to have a decent relationship, but these are very complex negotiations, and actually, they're apparently not even going on right now. I think Canada is kind of holding its cards to see what's going to unfold when the CUSMA negotiations come up. And it's because we are not able to, as Tonda said, we haven't reached the point where other countries have, where we've reached a deal with them, and these deals, by the way, are pretty vague to begin with. We'll invest billions of dollars here. Yeah, sure. Okay. No, there's nothing signed. It's just
no legal documents.
No legal documents or anything. But I don't think none of us in the media have a really good sense of what's going on in these negotiations. Mm-hmm. They've kept all this really, really tight, which is something that we all know about. Mm-hmm. Carney keeps his cards very close to his chest. I'd like to know a little more of what's actually been going on and what's at the table. But I don't think that Mr. Carney has a bad relationship with the president, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, it was certainly a step up from the last Prime Minister and Donald Trump.
I believe we did try the recipe that Madame Blais is talking about, flattery, getting closer to Mr. Trump. And Mr. Carney, for example, wished Mr. Trump happy birthday when he welcomed him in Kananaskis and said he had a nice military parade, the day before. So he tried that kind of stuff, but it did not lead us to anywhere. This was done while we were hoping to get a deal on July 21st, I believe. That was the first date, and then August 1st, and then he led us to nowhere. Because you get Mr. Trump's attention, and then he goes to another subject, another topic. So it does not lead us to a permanent or a strong deal that we can envision with the United States, and so that recipe I think is not working. Other allies of Canada have tried it. It led us to nowhere. They still have tariffs that they have to deal with.
On the point about what's really going on right now, I think that on the Canadian side, they're very glad that at least there is a formal structure, a consultation process now going on in both countries around potential renewal of the free trade agreement. And we've also seen very concrete efforts on the Carney government side to coordinate with the Mexicans, at least in some respect, vis-a-vis those talks and where that goes down the road. Where there's a lot of, yes, vague and unclear detail around what they're talking about right now and who's prepared to put what on the table. What's not vague is those countries that have succeeded in getting some kind of a deal is that they've been prepared to also sign on to huge investment deals with American companies, which is what Trump seems to want. In other words, there's a price to pay at the upfront, at the front end of these deals, and potentially by consumers anyway at the back end, because even if tariffs are lower, Mr. Trump's made clear they're not going away. They'll be at a baseline of 10%. So, you know, what that much is clear. Does Canada need to change its tactics as a result? I'm not clear that there's a need for them to change their tactics right now. We haven't seen what the end result is what the outcome is of what they're doing.
Okay. Well, we'll keep watching that story. But, you know, tied to this a bit, because obviously the tariffs are having an effect on the Canadian economy already. And this week, we heard from the Parliamentary Budget Officer raising the alarm about the upcoming deficit. Take a listen to what we heard from Jason Schock.
It's not a funny fiscal outlook. It's a really serious fiscal outlook. And we don't lightly use the word unsustainable, right? Unsustainable means you don't have the option of saying, maybe I'll wait a couple of years, I'll see how things go. It means if you don't change, this is done.
Okay, so again, he used the word unsustainable. Bob, how serious do you take his word? Do you think this is going to affect the budget that we're going to see November the 4th?
Yeah, look, he's projecting a deficit of $68 billion, and that doesn't even include defense spending and other issues like that. So God knows what our deficit is going to be like. I don't know. You know, we do know that Mark Carney's a very serious guy. He understands the economy. He understands what the result of big deficits can do, but I don't see a way out of this for us right now, because we're in the middle of a trade war, and it's really, the economy has taken a big hit, and I just don't. I think we're going to have to live with a lot of debt for the foreseeable future until we kind of work out this relationship with the United States, and we get more of our products, and our gas and oil, to global markets where we can then bring in a lot of money that can help bring down the deficit.
Yeah, which is not a flip of the switch. It's an investment of years. Tonda, what do you think?
Well, the report flags a really interesting political conundrum for this government, because they've promised, don't forget, to balance the operating budget within 3 years and hive off so-called capital expenditures. And so the really interesting thing is this report is essentially saying, you know, the Liberals have cut loose from any fiscal anchor that they used to have, which was declining debt to GDP ratio. That's gone to the wind now. So what will Mark Carney anchor his fiscal bona fides in this budget? And how will he define what's an operating expense that must be reduced to balance a budget on that side of the ledger, and what's going to be a capital expenditure, and how he, I think, dances on the head of that pin is going to be super interesting, because there are going to have to be cuts. Those kinds of multi-billion-dollar deficits going out, and like Bob said, don't even account for the most recent defense spending pledges, are not sustainable without cutting severely either programs, transfers, jobs, what have you. So that's the dilemma he's outlining.
Which in their own way has a negative impact on the economy again as well. So,
potentially.
Yeah. Joël-Denis?
I covered the fight against the deficit in the 1990s, the 95 budget, and then the situation then was dire. We did not have a PBO then, public
budget officer.
We had Wall Street.
Yeah, we had Wall Street that said that Canada was about to be
the Canadian peso.
Yeah, and so the situation now is very different from the 1990s, when we paid about 33% of our general revenue from Ottawa to pay just the charge on the interest of the debt. Now it's about 12% or 11%. So it's not as dire, but clearly this is a flag that the PBO is raising, and I think it will nourish the kind of debate that we will have in the House of Commons as this week, as we've seen it, because the nature of the spending the government is proposing is huge. And I expect then Mr. Carney, the government and the finance minister, to propose more of the investment right away, so that they can see that the deficit is declining over the next few years. So it's going to be uploaded upfront in the very first year of the mandate, and then declining, so they can project that they're in control of the situation. That's that's why they want to say that it's going to be a generational, how do you say that, investment? The investment of a generation.
Generational investment. Got it. It's okay. Got it. Okay, listen, I'm quickly running out of time. I was going to play a whole audio package for you. We're going to skip the audio package, but I want a quick go around here. Gary Anandasangri, the public safety minister, of course, caught on that leaked audio tape broken by the Toronto Star, basically questioning the government's gun buyback program. Can he survive in that portfolio in cabinet, Bob?
Well, he's had a number of missteps as the public safety minister, and I don't think he's going to be in cabinet for very long. But this government's got to get through a budget on November the 4th, and we know that he's lining up former ministers to leave and safe ridings, and you're going to see. I think he wants to bring in some real talent that he's comfortable with, along the lines of Tim Hodson, the Natural Resources Minister. So I think we'll probably see that in the new year, and it'll be a different cabinet. It'll be a Mark Carney cabinet, not a Justin Trudeau cabinet. And I suspect that the public safety minister will not be in cabinet.
Tonda?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball. I would say that
I wish you did.
I wish. I would say, though, that, Gary Anandasangri in that private conversation said the quiet part out loud, which is that very much the political capital of the government on this issue stems from meeting that promise to be tough on gun control in Quebec. His mistake was saying the quiet part out loud and saying it in private, not knowingly being recorded, mind you. But he also, why be flippant about, I'll bail you out and you won't, I'll pay your compensation if you, well, it's just, I think, a sign maybe of a rookie amateur minister on this portfolio. But what he said wasn't wrong. It depends now, to my mind, whether Carney feels that saying the truth is going to get you in trouble, and to what extent he chooses to be loyal to someone he put in and stood by in those previous conflicts.
Joël-Denis?
Well, like Bob, I expect Mr. Anandasangri to be kicked out of cabinet, but only in the spring, after the vote on the budget is secure and passed and all that, because this is the major priority of the government. And I think a few ridings will open up. Mr. Carney will pick the star candidates he wants that resemble his style of government and the vision of the economy, bring them along, and I expect a major shuffle. And a lot of cabinet ministers are saying that. We all know that we are under probation right now for a future cabinet shuffle that could come within 12 months. Well, 12 months is next spring. And that, leaves a lot of time for the Prime Minister to assess the quality of the ministers he's got in place right now, and to probably appoint more people who resemble his view of the economy.
Okay. Listen, again, quickly running out of time, but I do want to get your yays or nays of this week. Here we go.
Yays, 139, nays, 180.
Okay, so quick go around here. Choose a yay or a nay, Bob, of the past week.
Okay, yay, the public safety minister for being actually honest. Except he didn't realize it was going to be recorded and it would be released to the public, that the gun buyback thing is actually unworkable and that the police are not going to be enforcing it. And my nay would be Pierre Poilievre, who is very juvenile this week and criticizing the Prime Minister for his travel. It was just, he's jetting all over. It's just so juvenile. The Prime Minister is trying to develop relations with other countries at a time when we're in a trade war. This is absolutely justifiable expenses, and it's time for Mr. Poilievre basically to grow up.
Tonda?
Well, high points, low points is the way I'd cast it. I think a high point of this week was, or maybe one of the high points, is the push and drive by another rookie minister, Evan Solomon, on AI, and the enthusiasm and, I guess, commitment that he's bringing from the government to the AI file. Standing up a new department is one thing, but pushing out rapid timelines for some things to happen both legislatively and for advising the government how to proceed. And basically, I found that enthusiasm infectious, so I thought that was great. We'll see how he does the balance between, both being government, a regulator of AI, and a consumer and booster of AI. That's going to be tricky. My low point, I think, what I found with the Gary and Nanda Sangari piece and a few other things, like the counter-tariff strategy of the government. They haven't told us just how far they've really gone. What I think is a low point so far in this government is their lack of transparency about a whole bunch of things. And so I give them black marks for that.
Joël-Denis?
My yay goes to Minister of Public Service Joël-Denis for telling it bluntly to Canadians the future of Canada Post is very bleak, and that we need to do something, otherwise it's not going to go very well for that corporation. So, and this was the first big major test for Mr. Lightbound, and he passed the test handily for me. I think it's good talent in the cabinet, so that's my A. My A goes to the Postal Workers Union for immediately calling on a strike and probably weakening the position of Canada Post in the future. And we had a suggestion from the readers that I want to share with you. I think it was wise. I think it should be given the option to the union to buy Canada Post for $1 and try to turn them around. So that's a good suggestion.
Well, let's see how it goes. Okay, in the last few minutes left, let's talk about the look ahead. Okay, what are you looking ahead for?
Well, this weekend the Prime Minister is going to be in London. He's going to be meeting some European leaders and the leader of Australia. I'm looking forward to seeing what are the end results of those discussions that he's been having with these world leaders.
Okay, Tonda.
I mean, Parliament's not sitting for 2 days next week because of Truth and Reconciliation Day. So I guess I'd like to see what the message is to the Indigenous communities of this country on an important day that was given significance, both symbolic and in substance, by a previous Liberal government. And Canada's new government under Mr. Carney has yet to lay out, I think, their vision on how they see Indigenous communities being a part of his plan for Canada, except to say that we'll support you in your efforts to require equity and resource projects. I want to know, where's his vision? Where's he going on that?
Okay.
I'll be watching how patient the government will be towards the strikers of Postal Canada Post, because it's a major issue, and if they go ahead with back to our legislation, which dancing partner will they have? The Conservative Party has been moving very much protecting workers' rights, so it might lead to a very interesting debate.
And the Conservatives did not ask one question on Friday in question period about postal service.
That's my point. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see how that goes. With each strike, it seems oftentimes that the workers are actually making an argument for not needing a Canada Post. So I think that's something we're going to have to watch.
Right.
Listen, Bob, Tonda, Joël-Denis, always appreciate it. And to everyone listening to the podcast this week, thank you. And Michael Serapio, you can watch the podcast on YouTube if you like, and of course, download it again as well. Take care.